Are you thinking of quitting your job to build your startup? Before you build your own business, it is important for you to understand that a lot of what you see on the internet and social media about the glamour that entrepreneurs experience on the process of building a business is simply not true. Business gives you a great lifestyle after you have put blood, sweat and tears for a considerable period of time. But the journey, especially in the beginning, is anything but glamorous. Now, this is not to deter you or discourage you from building your own startup, but it is important that you have realistic expectations before you make the transition from employment into building your own business. At a fundamental level, at least, there are 9 important things that you must do and consider before you build your own startup. The first thing to do before you quit your job and start your business is to first work out exactly why you want to build a business. Now, your reason for building a business needs to go beyond just wanting to have independence, because a lot of people want to quit their job simply because they don't like their boss or they don't like the fact that they don't have enough flexibility and freedom. Well, this is not a great reason to want to build your own business. You need to have a more substantial why as to the reason why you want to build your business. Is it to make an impact? Is it to solve a problem? Is it to make a profit? Ideally, it should be a combination of all of these. But if I was starting a business today, I would first sit down and document exactly my why and make sure that my why has some emotional reasons for me to build a business, but also some very practical reasons why I want to work for myself and I don't want to work for a corporation or a small business. The second thing to do before you quit your job and build your startup is to have a revenue plan in place. Now, I don't really see a lot of people talking about this, but a revenue plan in its most simplest form is something that would look at how much cash flow you need to bring in the early stages to meet your personal obligations and liabilities and expenses, but also how much cash flow do you need to bring in to meet the tax liabilities of the business as well as the business expenses that you're going to have at the very least. So you need to sit down and know exactly how much money you need to make, and then you need to work out how many units you need to sell to bring in that gross revenue so that all of your business expenses, personal expenses and tax liabilities are catered for and accounted for when you are doing your revenue plan. The third thing you may need to do before you quit your job and build your startup is to have a comprehensive marketing plan. In the marketing plan, you need to be very clear what are the types of initiatives you're going to engage in to acquire a customer, or in the beginning just to get their interest and then bring them into your universe. And then you need to also have a sales strategy within the marketing plan. Now, are you going to predominantly do what we call hunting-based strategies where you're extremely proactive, things like business development, networking, telemarketing? Those are examples of hunting strategies. Or are you going to use some farming strategies like content marketing or outreach messages and things like that? Some people will use a combination, but for most businesses, when they're starting up, they're probably going to need to emphasize more hunting strategies, which simply means that they have to be more proactive in the pursuit of acquiring a customer. Your marketing plan also needs to look at the expense of acquiring a customer. You see, when you're trying to get out there and you're trying to get the attention of your ideal prospect, all of these initiatives are going to cost you in terms of time and money, and this is something that you should have ideally incorporated within your revenue plan in terms of both time as well as money. The fourth thing that you would want to do before you quit your job and build your startup is to have a prototype, a minimum viable product, something that doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but at the very basic level, it carries out the function of solving the problem for your ideal prospect. Now, you don't want to spend a considerable amount of time and money developing your prototype simply because if there is no need for it in the market, you've just wasted your time and money. But a minimum viable product means that the product at its basic level at least does something to solve the customer's problem. And of course, then you're going to wait for the feedback that you get from your customers before you build it further. I mean, this is how some of the best products in the world start out. They don't build the perfect product in the beginning. They just build the minimum viable product. They build a prototype that is basic in its form. However, it carries out the function that the customers want, and then once they get that feedback and once they're starting to get revenue, which is the ultimate form of feedback, because once people start to open their wallet and pay you for your product, they're simply confirming that there is a need for that product in the marketplace, and then that money can be used to further develop the product rather than using your own capital to develop everything up front. Just develop the minimum viable product before you spend money on innovation and development of that product, or research and development if it's something that's going to be very comprehensive. The fifth thing that you need before you quit your job and you build your startup is proof of concept. And proof of concept simply means that there is a sample size of people who have made the commitment to buy from you. When you have proof of concept, you've essentially validated to yourself that there is a need for what you're selling in the marketplace. And that is a really good starting point before you invest further capital into your business. The sixth thing that you want to have in place before you quit your job and build your startup is a co-founder in mind. A co-founder is somebody that has similar values to you and the values that you want for your business, but they have a complementary skill set, meaning that all the areas in which you're deficient, they're strong in, and vice versa. Now, if you can find somebody that is a great co-founder for you and they have bought into the values of the business, they have a complementary skill set, that just simply means that some of the burden and some of the responsibilities of building a startup can be shared with that person, because entrepreneurship can be quite a lonely journey as well. So having a trusty person who you can rely on, somebody who can support you with real skill set, has the desire to build a business with you, and they may not bring the vision, but they may bring the qualities of determination, they may bring an amazing skill set that you're going to need to build your startup. The seventh thing you need to have in place before you quit your job and build your startup is to have some savings. That is simply so that you can buy time. Sometimes what happens is a founder has a great idea or a fantastic concept, but it takes them some time to take that concept into the market and commercialize it. The last thing you want is the fact that you have proof of concept, but now you're getting to a point where the cash is starting to run out and you need a bit more time. And because the cash runs out, you have to now wind up your business. It can be a very disappointing and discouraging experience for an entrepreneur when they know that there is demand for what they're doing, but simply because they don't have access to enough cash, they're still having to close down that business. To avoid that from happening, always make sure that you have some savings put aside. You may not necessarily need it, but it's nice to have it there so that that fear and desperation that so many entrepreneurs experience, you are not going to have to experience. And keep in mind also that when people are experiencing fear, their ability to think properly and make wise decisions is naturally impacted. So to avoid that situation from happening, ensure that you have some savings. Now, how much savings you should have will depend on your business model and depend on your marketing capability and your confidence in how quickly you can take that concept to the market. But at the very least, I would recommend that you have about 6 months worth of business and personal expenses put aside in savings, so that you're not feeling that intense pressure and you're not starting to be concerned about failure, especially when you deep down know at the gut level that your business concept has a lot of merit. Last thing you want is to run out of money and having to shut down that business just because you can't buy that time that is very necessary sometimes. And I always say to people that when you're building a business, always expect that it's going to cost you twice as much as you think, but it's also going to take twice as long as you think to commercialize that business. The eighth thing that you also need to do before you quit your job and you build a startup is a complete unwavering commitment to do whatever it takes and invest as much time as it takes to build your business. A business is not a part-time endeavor. It is not even a full-time endeavor. It is an all-the-time endeavor, especially in the beginning, because you're having to wear different hats. You are the person who's looking after operations, bookkeeping and finance. You're the person who's looking after marketing, sales, administration, and of course building the product or the service at the same time. So you've got a lot on your plate. And the fact is that if your business starts to do well, all that's going to do is increase your workload in the beginning. And you don't really want to prematurely go and hire people until you have solid cash flow for at least 6 to 12 months. And so for that reason, you need to be completely unwavering in your commitment, and you need to know for a fact that you have the ability to be able to put as many hours as required in the business in the early stages, so that whatever you need to do to build that business, you are able to do. And this is why sometimes people treat a really serious business idea as a side hustle. So many times it doesn't work out. And people need to understand that a business can be a fantastic way to create lifestyle, but lifestyle businesses are built over a period of time. You can't start off with a lifestyle business, and so many people will tell you that they've got a lifestyle business, but I know a lot of these people, and over the years what I've found is that very few, if any, actually end up making any type of decent money. So if you want to really commercialize your business successfully, understand that the lifestyle comes after your startup is established, not before. The ninth thing that you need before you quit your job and build a startup is mental toughness. You need to have a solid mindset, a lot of emotional fortitude, and the ability to withstand a lot of rejections from suppliers, from customers, even from people who you want as stakeholders in your business. That could be staff members, co-founders, so on and so forth. So you need to have a lot of resilience to be able to bounce forward, not just bounce back. Now, this is important because so many people may feel that they have developed the skill set that is going to make them successful in business, but if they don't have the right mindset to go along with it, what they'll find is that as the journey gets tough, they're going to want to give up. And this is something that even I have experienced many times. I like to think that I'm mentally tough, but I can tell you, business will beat you down. Business is tough. And so from experience, I can tell you that you have to continually build a very strong mindset, the ability to be able to not have certainty for long periods of time, the ability to be able to hold opposing ideas and not be able to come to any type of closure for long periods of time, the ability to constantly have no said to you over and over again. These things are very important, and I really strongly believe that all of this, the commitment to build mental toughness, actually even builds character that is such a necessary prerequisite to become a successful startup entrepreneur. The reason I wanted to share this video with you is because I did not want you to get caught up in the marketing of businesses. I mean, these days entrepreneurship and startups are all the rage. A lot of young people today don't want to be a slave to the corporate system, and I think that's fantastic. However, there is a case for people being realistic about what to expect on this journey before they just go and quit their job. So you need to be prepared, and this is not to deter you from doing it. In fact, I would highly encourage you to think about becoming an entrepreneur or founder, but don't just jump into it without some strategy and without some planning, and make sure that you have built the type of mindset that you're going to need on your journey to becoming a successful startup founder.